Okay, and once again we are rolling. Welcome back to Not Ready Yet podcast. Not ready yet radio, just not ready yet. Whatever you want to call it is absolutely fine. What did we speak about last week? Once again, cannot remember, dude. Does this mean that whatever we spoke about last week wasn't important? Not necessarily. It may do. May mean that it was absolute sort of fluff. Only looking at it will I be able to tell. This week we've got a few things to talk about. Man United have just lost as of probably about an hour and a half ago, something like that. They've just lost 3-1 to West Ham, and I'm hearing this from the interwebs, so I'll be watching that on Match of the Day tonight. Did not expect that, man. I expected maybe 2-1 West Ham, 2-1 United, maybe a draw, but to win by 2 goals is fairly fucking... that's embarrassing, isn't it? Not for West Ham, that's a triumph, absolute triumph. Well done, West Ham, round of applause to you. Because I'm not like that, but I don't hate clubs, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a Spurs fan, and most Spurs fans hate West Ham fans, most West Ham fans hate Spurs fans, Tottenham, Arsenal, it goes on and on and on. At the end of the day, guys, they're just two football teams trying to win a match, and that's as complicated as it gets. So I've never fucking hated teams. I've disagreed with how teams conducted themselves before. Like, I remember probably about 10-15 years ago getting on for that now, when Ruud van Nistelrooy missed that penalty against Arsenal, and Martin Keown and was Tony Adams playing at that time? I don't think he was. Anyway, all the Arsenal players fucking jumped on Van Nistelrooy and were all cunty to him. I didn't like that, I don't think many people like that, apart from the fact that it was against Man United. So I think some people might have enjoyed that. But, yeah, dude, I didn't like Arsenal for a while, but it wasn't Arsenal I didn't like, it was the player, it was specifically the players that did that. I didn't like Martin Keown as a player, but I like him as a pundit, dude. Ever since that I've seen him being like interviewed and doing post-match analysis, man, I think if let's say I was having like a heart attack or something like that and I needed someone to calm me down, I reckon Martin Keown would be actually quite good at that. Like, I can see him as sort of like a paramedic, because he's very sort of soft-spoken and he makes eye contact. Lawrence McKenna made the point on the True Geordie podcast that he's like the most sincere man that you'll get in football. Like, he really connects and looks you in the eye and he'll give you a real answer, and he makes a really good point, because he does do that a lot, but you feel like you're the only person he's speaking to, even though he's looking at the presenter of the thing. Do you know what I mean? But I don't want this to be a fucking love letter to Martin Keown. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, I didn't like him as a player because he was a bit fucking, do you know what I mean? It was a bit much with the whole Van Nistelrooy thing. But to be a professional athlete of any kind, man, you've got to be a bit of a fucking, you've got to be single-minded in aggression and in, I don't know, I'm making excuses. But anyway, my point is, there's no team that I hate. I love football shirts, man. If I like a football shirt, I want to get it. And I've never bought a West Ham shirt before because I am a Spurs fan. Just because you have to answer too many questions. I thought you supported Spurs, why are you doing a West Ham shirt? Because I like the fucking shirt, man. West Ham have got some of the coolest fucking kits in the history of football or kits. They really have, dude. That claret and blue, same with Aston Villa. But West Ham have had some cool kits. But yeah, I like football shirts, I like all teams, I like watching different teams. I really don't understand this tribalism about football. It's fun to a certain extent. I like having teams where, like, it's fun to dislike them. Sort of like when Anne Robinson hosted The Weakest Link, and she was the woman that you love to hate, that she was known as the woman that the nation loves to hate. Which now isn't understandable, because Anne Robinson's lovely compared to a lot of the cunts on TV now. Jesus. She's pretty much England's sweetheart now compared to... Anyway, we're getting massively off topic. The point is, Man United lost to West Ham. So I guess I wanted to. There's a lot of talk about Mourinho and Pogba, and just general. There's been a lot of talk about Mourinho lately. I quite like Mourinho. Now maybe this is because everyone's getting on his case. Everyone's getting on his case, like from the media to the not necessarily the fans. I am talking a little bit out my asshole because have I read up on the subject massively? No. Have I watched a few YouTube videos and read a few articles? Yeah, but I haven't researched it properly. Now, the reason I like Mourinho is he does seem like in terms of the press, everyone's fucking against him and everyone's just sort of poking him and prodding him and seeing if they can sort of either get him to bite or weaken his spirit or just fucking capitalise on a wounded beast, which he is now. And I feel like I've always felt like I was an outsider and that not many people understood me. Or I remember in school, man, in secondary school, everyone just thought I was weird, which to be honest they probably had a point, but there was no reason to be an asshole to me. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's the same about Mourinho. I think he's different, and he's not like other people in terms of the way he speaks or the way he thinks and stuff like that. And I think sometimes when people just treat you like you're so different and like you're an outcast or an outsider or that you're, do you know what I mean? You start to speaking from personal experience, I started to just resent everyone I went to school with because they didn't just roll with the fact that I was a bit different. Because I was never an asshole to speak to people unless they were an asshole to me. I always treated people nicely. I was just a little bit weird, so they couldn't handle that really. And so, you know, sometimes resentment can come from people not understanding you. Do you know what I mean? So he's always been. I think the thing with Mourinho, he reminds me of a doctor with bad bedside manner. They're really fucking intelligent, and they've got a lot going on, and they're kind of like a maverick and a free spirit and a bit of a fucking like renegade. But oh, hang on, no, that doesn't fit with the doctor analogy. Doctors are fucking they're so up here that they can't communicate in a nice way. We've all had doctors like that where they've been through medical school, they've absolutely smashed the back doors off that, you know, they've done medical school, they've come through it, they've passed with flying colours, but now they're a doctor. Yeah, they know what's wrong with you, but can they talk to you like you're a human being? Can they fuck, man? Can they fuck? I've seen some doctors before that are just poor excuses for human beings. Do you know what I mean? But I used to go to this practice in Birmingham called Five Ways Medical Centre that was recently shut down for malpractice and because it wasn't deemed suitable to care for the general public. So maybe my experience with doctors isn't the normal person's experience with doctors, but we all know that some of them can be absolute cunts and they can't communicate. They find it very difficult to communicate on a human level. And sometimes I think with people who are really intelligent, like Mourinho, that's where their strength lies, is in their thoughts and in their mind and the power of their brain and how intellectual they are. And sometimes that doesn't always translate into being a nice person. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure Mourinho is a nice person, but I've always seen him like a doctor. Like he's almost too intelligent for his own good, and I bet he's a good man, Mourinho. I bet inside, I bet he's a good man. He doesn't strike me as a piece of shit. Do you know what I mean? I think sometimes he just has a bit of trouble communicating with people in a way where he doesn't come off aggressive. Not aggressive, but sort of. He kind of sometimes has a look of condemnation in his eyes, but a lot of the reason for that, dude, might be that he's talking to the fucking British press. The British press, dude, don't deserve any respect because they haven't shown it to anyone else. And obviously there'll be British journalists who are good journalists, they're good people, they conduct themselves with dignity and they treat people well. However, dude, the British press are fucking they're dog shit, man, and they don't have any morals. Right the way back to the Falklands when they when they released that, I only found out about this recently watching a documentary about Maradona's Hand of God, where he put the ball in with his hand in '86. And there was a lot of hatred towards the English because of not because of the English people, but because of the English press. There was a submarine that was sunk, an Argentinian submarine that was sunk by British forces, and the British press released on the front page of the paper, there was a picture of this submarine on fire, sinking, and it just said "Gotcha," Gotcha, gotcha, and that sums up the British press. That sums up that they don't have empathy. They don't understand what empathy is. All they see is headlines and how can we be as provocative and as cunty and as vicious as possible so we can sell advertising off the back of that. Basically, that's what the British press is. So, especially if you're coming from another country, why would you respect the British press? Because they're definitely not going to respect you, and they're not going to respect anyone if it's in their advantage to. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't respect the British press, especially if I was in a job where. Imagine being in a job where, at the end of your working day, you have to go to a press conference, sit down, and then have people just pick you apart one by one. Why did you do this? Why didn't you do that? What do you think about this? Were you wrong about that? Do you know what I mean? And you have to sit there and justify yourself to these people. And you're the only one that's on camera. It's not like there's a camera on these journalists asking the questions. Like they're just a voice asking a question from a crowd, and they can remain sort of anonymous. And a lot of these journalists, man, I don't know what it is, but there's something about the way they ask these questions that's just sort of, and maybe that's me being too sensitive, I don't know, but I feel like they're so sort of passive aggressive. Do you know what I mean? Either be a cunt or don't, but pick one. Do you know what I mean? Don't just be so fucking Eamon Holmes and live in the middle where you're just a little bit of an asshole, but not so much of an asshole that people can call you on it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's my opinion on that. That's why I so badly want to just be on Mourinho's side, because I always stick up for the underdog, and it's weird to call Mourinho an underdog because he's, you think of the manager of lower league teams as the underdog. If a team from League One plays Arsenal in the Premier League, you think of that kind of a manager as an underdog, not Mourinho. But he kind of is now, in terms of like everyone's ganging up on him, and I kind of, just because of that, want to be on his side. I think to understand who he is, you would have to have him on a podcast, I think. To be honest, dude, someone like True Geordie would be really good at that, I think. Because there was that Alan Shearer documentary I watched on True Geordie's channel, and that's by far like the longest Alan Shearer interview I've ever seen. I think it was over an hour. I'm pretty sure it was over an hour. And you just spoke to him, and you got an idea of who he was as a man, not just as a goal scorer or as a post match pundit or anything like that. You got a little bit of a glimpse of who he is just as a human. And I think that would be the only way to sort of get to the bottom of a lot of these Mourinho topics is just sit him down and talk to him like he's a fucking human being. Do you know what I mean? Instead of just saying, he said this, or he's done that, or he's fallen out with him and her, and what was said here. It's very fucking playground-like. Do you know what I mean? It's like school. The press now, after social media, is basically an extended version of the school playground. It's he said, she said. It's fucking pathetic, a lot of it, man. It is really fucking pathetic. At a certain point, let the guy do his fucking job. Do you know what I mean? Let him do his job. Because otherwise, he's just going to resent the British press even more. Rightly so. And to be honest, dude, ever since all this stuff came out about Mourinho being, having, for want of a better term, just bad bedside manner with the press, I think he's been a lot better. I can see he's making a distinct effort, and he can't win, because if he starts making, if let's say, okay, the British press say Mourinho's acting weird, or you know, passive aggressive, or he's being rude, or he's not talking to the press right. If that knowledge gets back to Mourinho, and he just keeps giving one word answers to the press and not being very nice and to them and stuff like that, then people would say, oh well, he's never going to change, he's not going to change, and people would criticise him for that. And if he does change and starts speaking more kind of nicely and starts having a little bit more personality about him in front of the press, people are going to say, oh well, he's only doing that because he got called out on it and he's trying to protect his career. So Mourinho is at a point where he literally can't win. He can't win. He's fucked if he does, he's fucked if he doesn't. And all he can do to win back the British press is to get results on the football pitch, which has always been the case with those cunts. It's always been the case with them. They've never got behind someone and said, listen, fuck the rest of these guys, we believe in you because you're one of us. Do you know what I mean? Like with Raheem Sterling, you know, they were singing Kane's praises before the World Cup, and rightfully so. Kane's an amazing striker, and he's, you know, one of our best chances of taking home some silverware. But they fucking obliterated Raheem Sterling before the World Cup, and then they just slagged off his performance when he was at the World Cup and when he came back. So what do you think? How do you think a player's gonna play when you, to be, for all the British press said about Raheem Sterling before the World Cup, I think he did astoundingly well, because he was going into that thing knowing the press was against him, knowing a lot of the British public were talking shit based on a lot of what the press has said. And at the end of the day, dude, he's not the guy's not murdered anyone, he's not robbed anyone, he's not, do you know what I mean? He's not done anything wrong. All the guy's trying to do is put on a football shirt and represent his team to the best of his ability. That's all the guy's trying to do. And unfortunately, British people in general have something in them where they like to knock people down. And it's one of the things I've always felt a little bit of shame about for being English, is I don't want to be, I don't know, we love putting someone down and saying someone can't do something, or someone's past it, or someone's not good enough in some way. And it's always been one of the main things about being English that I feel is needs to change. People don't really have any faith for the underdog in this country, and it's always struck me as really weird. You know, and maybe that's because we used to be an empire, you know, so maybe there's a sense of arrogance embedded within the English where we just want dominance and perfection and power 100% of the time, and if someone's not demonstrating those qualities, they just assassinate their character. And I don't think the British press think enough about knock-on effects. Like, okay, we want to print this is their goal. They want to make as much noise as possible, make as big a fucking stink as possible, so they can sell advertising on the side of their web page. That's their game, and they'll do that however they can. But I honestly don't understand why a negative article sells more advertising than an article that says, let's get behind Sterling as we get behind Kane. If anything, dude, a player who's not doing as well for their country needs even more fucking praise and encouragement from the press than a player like Kane who's on a fucking roll. You know, don't get me wrong, praise Kane, endorse him as our new sort of Alan Shearer number 9. But dude, fucking like, the British press like to send lambs to the slaughter. It's what they've been doing for decades. I remember with Beckham, you know, the same a lot with a lot of England fans with Beckham. From 1998 to 2002 was one of the most pivotal periods of a few years in an athlete's career that I can't think of an athlete that's gone through more of a change within such a short period of time than Beckham in those 4 years. Between the end of the World Cup in 1998 and the beginning of the World Cup in Korea, Japan in 2002, Beckham went from being the nation's scapegoat and a hated figure that was sent death threats through the post, and the Sun had a pull-out dartboard with his fucking head in the middle, and people were burning effigies on it of him like he's Guy Fawkes, you know, and then all he has to do to win back the nation is to score a free kick against Greece at Old Trafford in 2001, which puts England into the World Cup finals in 2002. All of a sudden then, it's give that man a knighthood, like the commentary said when the goal went in. And so my point is, short story long, I don't blame Mourinho for not being nice to the British press. I don't know how to wrap this up really. I mean, I still hope Mourinho does well. I don't know what's going on between him and Pogba. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what he is behind closed doors and in the dressing room, but you shouldn't know. Unless everyone's agreed to have a documentary made like the Man City one, which I really enjoyed. You shouldn't see what goes on in a dressing room. That is between a team, the manager and the coaching staff, and that's it. You know, there's a reason there's a door to the dressing room. It's so you can shut that bitch and not have anyone from the outside see or hear what's going on. So we love to send a lamb to the slaughter in this country, and I think that's something that's really, it's not a good quality in a nation to be like that. You know, so fully on Mourinho's side. Not that I'm not on Pogba's side. I just, you know, that's a different issue altogether. Yeah, so that's that. That's Mourinho covered. Very, very big change of subject. Fucking Strictly's back. One of the best shows aside from Match of the Day that England has to offer. Is Strictly Come Dancing. I'm fucking excited. I've missed it. You know, and is it possible to like football and ballroom dancing competitions? Yeah. Dude, stop being a bitch, man. Fucking put on Strictly, have some Paso Doble in your life. It doesn't make you gay. Do you know what I mean? If you're secure in your masculinity, not that you can't be secure in your masculinity and be gay. You can be very masculine and very gay. I've heard it said before that, you know, having your way with another man in the bum is probably one of the most masculine things you can do, which, if you think about it, probably is, in a weird way. Now, what the fuck was I talking about before I started talking about that? Anyway, I love a fucking paso. A good Argentine tango, I won't say no. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't probably want to entertain the idea of attempting it myself, just because, as you've probably noticed from this video, posture's not very good. You know, you want to do that dancing game, you've got to be up here, you've got to have your head back. I know this just from watching It Takes Two, which is basically like the match of the day of Strictly, is It Takes Two. And to be honest, I wish Match of the Day did that sort of a system where every day of the week, Monday to Friday, you have like a little half an hour episode of... So Gary Lineker could host Match of the Day still. And who's that guy that does Match of the Day too? He kind of looks like a teacher I had. So I always call him Greg. Fuck, I don't know what his name is. So they can still do that and everything. But in the week, have like fucking Ian Wright. Oh, that'd be sick, man. If you had Ian Wright host like a daily show, and he has people on to talk about what's been happening, what transfer news is coming up, you know, who's got who at the weekend, what formation do you think they're going to go with, predictions, do you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, it takes 11. They should probably make it. So It Takes Two followed by It Takes 11, and that's just a roundup of all the fucking ballroom dance and football entertainment news. Let's do some Strictly predictions, man. Let's do some Strictly Come Dancing predictions. Might get my girlfriend in for this because actually she doesn't want to be on camera because she knows that people online can be arseholes and make fun of people for absolutely no fucking reason. And dude, I know that as well, but I'm past the point of giving a shit. You know, I tried to disable comments actually for the last video, but the last video was like an audio thing, so yeah, I have no idea how to disable comments. I'm sure there's a way you can do it. I don't know what that is. But see, people think it's I don't believe in comments. I really don't believe in them. The most I believe in is if you watch a YouTube video, if you want to show approval or disapproval, just fucking hit the like button or the dislike button. I don't know why they're there if you can just comment on the thing. I've never commented on a YouTube video. I've never done it. I've never felt the urge to, because unless it was something nice. But even then, I haven't said it. Yeah, because I don't think people listen to their mums. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of people that are commenting on YouTube videos either didn't have good mums or they didn't listen to them. Because my mum told me that if you ain't gonna say anything nice, then shut the fuck up. She didn't say it like that. She said it how it should be said, that, you know, don't say anything at all. But in a gist of it, that is what you know. If you're not going to be nice, you know, do one, which is exactly what I think. You know, because these cunts don't even have their proper names up a lot of the time. It's not like, you know, Fred Jones. It's someone, you know, fucking butthole 69. And they're going to give you their opinion when they've called themselves Butthole 69, and you're thinking, do I want this guy to approve of me? Probably not. You know, I probably don't want his approval because his instincts are probably always wrong. So what were we talking about? Oh yeah, how to disable comments. I'm just going to leave the fucking thing up because at some point, doing this thing on my own, and not having a co-host, I am going to run out of things to talk about. And if someone's being a cunt on the comment feed, maybe that'll be something to talk about. I don't know. First of all, someone's got to watch these videos before they can even comment with a nasty comment. So if I'd started getting nasty comments, at least that means people are watching the thing. So yeah, but what were we going to do? Let's look up Strictly Contestants 2018. Now, I'm terrible with short-term memory. Is this due to marijuana? Maybe. Although, dude, I'm thinking of before I was smoking. Dude, before I started smoking weed, I was just as bad. Thinking about it. Yeah, I was just as bad, so it's probably not that. Anyway, what are we doing? See, this is what I'm talking about. I forgot that I was going to Google the Strictly Contestants. Strictly lineup 2018. It's in my predicted results, so my computer knows that I'm into this. Not into this, you know, I don't get off on it, but I do enjoy a bit of Strictly. And sometimes I wish they just did 2 competitions a year, like I believe they do in America with Dancing with the Stars in a Yorkshire accent that was. Right, so Strictly lineup, it usually comes up with a big list. Because I watched it last week, which was the first proper week that they did dances and everything, and I have literally forgotten almost everyone who is taking part. So we have, and this is in order of how I'm seeing it on this website, we've got the newswoman, who I always call Kate Garraway, but she's not Kate Garraway. She's a different newswoman. Strictly Come Dancing 2018 launches this weekend. Yes, we know. Okay, so we're not going to start with her because it actually hasn't given a name. They've just chosen to have her picture. So in order, and this is not the professional dancers, this is the contestants. So we have Vic Hope, who, if you think of the name Vic Hope, I picture someone like, if you remember Frank Butcher from EastEnders, and if you don't, type in Frank Butcher. You don't even have to type EastEnders in, just type in Frank Butcher and you will know exactly what I mean. Vic is like, Vic's an old Cockney's name. Right, Vic, how you doing? What's your son? It's alright, as a wife, as a missus. Alright, Vic. That's Vic, you know.